Good evening. Welcome to the September 22nd West Clermont School Board meeting. Mr. Romano, please take roll.
Mr. Patton.
Present.
Mr. Rudy.
Present.
Mr. Chumley.
Present.
Mrs. Spencer.
Present.
And Ms. Sanborn let us know she was unavailable today.
Thank you. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next up is the motion to adopt the agenda. Would someone like to make a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Rudy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Chumley. Is there any discussion? Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rudy.
Yes.
Mr. Chumley.
Yes.
Mrs. Spencer.
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
4 yes.
Looks like next we're going to Ms. Jenny.
Good evening, President Patton, members of the board. I'd like to call up our two recognition recipients tonight. So Lauren Craviel and Paula Wolf. Come on up. All right, we're going to start with you. Lauren. All right, we'll do Lauren first so you can face the board there. All right, West Clermont proudly recognizes Lauren Craviel, Innovation and Design Teacher at West Clermont Middle School, who was named the Ohio Middle Level Association 2025 Southwest Regional Teacher of the Year. In response to our district's initiative to expand electives and strengthen high school pathways, Lauren created a health technology pathway that introduces middle schoolers to careers in healthcare. Sixth graders begin with germ busters, exploring microorganisms and the impact of hygiene. Seventh graders become disease detectives, studying disease patterns in public health. And eighth graders serve as medical detectives, analyzing data and solving diagnostic challenges. Together, these courses provide an engaging, hands-on introduction to the world of healthcare. Congratulations, Lauren. And second, Paula Wolf is here on behalf of the Treasurer's Department, and she is being recognized for the Open and Transparent Government Achievement. West Clermont proudly recognizes the Treasurer's Department for earning the Ohio Auditor of State's highest achievement in open and transparent government for the third consecutive year. West Clermont received the top distinction with a 4-star rating through the STA-RS program, which honors districts that not only meet but exceed public records and open meeting standards. Paula Wolf is receiving the recognition on behalf of the Treasurer's team for her leadership in handling and fulfilling public records requests. Congratulations, Paula, and your department.
Next up is Mr. Shane Short.
All right, good evening, President Patton, members of the board, Dr. Foltz, Mr. Romano, and thank you for the opportunity for us to share what's happening at Amelia Elementary tonight. Our students and I are excited to highlight how the Leader in Me framework is shaping our school culture and helping every child grow as a leader. You'll see examples of how the 7 habits are practiced in our classrooms, in hallways, and even at home with our family connections. These habits are giving the students the skills of responsibility, confidence, collaboration, and that will serve them for years to come. All right, Mr. Romano, this was supposed to play. There we go. So at Amelia Elementary, leadership is at the heart of who we are. Through the Leader in Me framework, students are empowered to discover their strengths, take initiative, and practice making positive choices. This approach not only shapes confident leaders, but also fosters a school culture where every student has a voice and a role in contributing to the success in our community. Might be a little hard to read, but the 7 habits serve as a foundation for leadership and character development. They provide a shared language and mindset that guide both students and staff in how we interact, learn, and grow. By practicing these habits, we build responsibility, empathy, teamwork, and balance, skills that prepare students for success in school and in life.
The habits are more than just words on a poster. They are lived out in daily routines and interactions, whether setting academic and personal goals, solving problems collaboratively, or showing respect and kindness. Students and staff actively apply the habits in meaningful ways. This consistent practice helps create a learning environment that is powerful, supportive, and focused on growth. This slide is about our home connection. We keep families connected through weekly Leader in Me updates. These newsletters share ways parents can support leadership at home, building consistency between school and family. And now we have some students who would like to share different parts of the program with you. Come on up. Charlie's up first here. Come on up, Charlie. You're going to talk about your hallway greeters, right? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Charlie, and I'm in 4th grade. Hallway greeters welcome students and visitors to our school each morning with a smile and kind greeting. We use Leader in Me Habit 5, seek first to understand, then be understood, by helping people feel important and valued. This leadership role sets a positive tone for the day and shows how students can make a difference in our school community.
Thank you, Charlie. You back down, Mr. Shirley. Come on up, Addie. Theo, kind of share the space. There you go. This is Addie and Theo. They're going to tell you a little bit about leadership teams.
Hi, my name is Addie. In 4th grade, we get to be on leadership teams, which are special groups of students who take care of important jobs in our classroom. I'm on the supply supervisor's team, and my team's job is to put materials away, organize supplies, and pick up and sharpen pencils. It connects to the 7 habits because habit 6 is working together, and that's what my team does. I think leadership teams are important because they give us a chance to be leaders and show that kids can take responsibility too.
Theo, your turn.
Hi, I'm Theo. I'm a part of the conduct crew team, and our job is to help follow directions, get the line ready to go, and answer questions. This is important because I could put up the silent tiger when we need to be quiet, and it shows in action every day. Being part of this team teaches me responsibility, teamwork, and how to set a good example for others. Though I know the work we do make our school better for everyone.
All right. You ready?
My name is Brady, and I am in 2nd grade at Amelia. In 2nd grade, we are learning about building positive relationships with Leader in Me. We write emotional bank account messages to our classmates to tell them something we like or admire about them. Then we share our messages, which helps us practice kindness, empathy, and habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood.
Come on over, guys. Harrison, you're up first. Harrison and his friends are going to share a little bit about leaders in action.
Hello, my name is Harrison. Another way we show leadership in the 4th grade is with our Side of the Show bulletin board. And each student can fill out a ticket if they see a classmate showing one of the 7 habits, like picking up something for someone else, which shows habit 1, being proactive. The tickets go on the bulletin board so everyone can see, and it's a way to celebrate each other.
Good job. Come on up, Wyatt. Big smile. You got this, man.
Hello, my name is Wyatt.
I like the star of the show, Baltimore, because it's a change for kids to recognize each other, not just teachers noticing us. When I saw a classmate doing their classwork without being asked, I wrote them a ticket for showing habit 3, putting first things first. It feels good to celebrate each other's leadership and limit paradigms or beliefs about each other.
Hi, my name is Trevor. I like being part of the Star of the Show bulletin board because it encourages us to look for the good in others. When I see my name on the board, it makes me feel proud and reminds me to keep being a leader. It also shows that students notice and value leadership in each other.
All right, let's hear it for those students. They did a great job. Good job, you guys. All right, you stay right here while I finish, okay? At Amelia Elementary, Leader in Me is more than a program. It's part of who we are. By empowering students with leadership opportunities and the 7 habits, we are preparing every child to thrive in school and in life. Thank you for the opportunity to present to the board this evening. We are grateful for your continued support of Amelia Elementary, our students, and our staff. Together, we will keep building leadership opportunities that empower every child to succeed. We look forward to working alongside you as we continue to grow our future leaders.
Mr. Short, after the picture, I'd like to give the board a chance to ask some questions.
Whoops.
Boys and girls, before you go back, I just didn't know, I wanted to give the board a chance to ask some questions if they had any to ask.
Is it Theo? Is that your name, Theo? Theo. Who's the plaid shirt? Brady.
Brady.
Second grade, you must have some great teachers to be able to read like that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
You guys did a great job doing public speaking. I know that sometimes that can be very difficult to stand in front of a crowd. Trust me, each time I'm up here, I get a little nervous in the beginning, so you guys did a great job, so.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
guys for coming
well
out
done.
and presenting to us.
What was the name of the bulletin board that you talked about? I couldn't catch it.
Star of the show.
Star of the show. Star of the show. Okay, thank you. It sounds very nice. Thank you all again for coming out tonight. Thank you, parents, for
Thank
bringing
you.
them out in
Yes,
this
thank
weather.
you,
and
guys.
being a part of it.
Okay, so next up is public speaking. It says visitors who wish to address the board are asked to state their name, address, and their school or organization. Remarks must be addressed to the board and shall be brief, approximately 3 minutes, and to the point. Speakers may offer such objective criticism or suggestions regarding school operations or programs. The board will not hear personal complaints of school personnel or against any persons connected to the school district unless those complaints have first been addressed through the individual department or administrators involved. It does look like I have a guest speaker, Mr. Becker.
Good evening, Board. I'm John Becker. I used to be your state representative from, 2013, 2020. I'm currently a Union Township trustee. Well, the reason I'm here this evening is because Linda Fraley is retiring as a Clermont County auditor, and multiple people have come to me asking that I run for auditor. So, you know, the reason I'm being asked is because of my resume. I am a tax accountant. I have an MBA with an emphasis in taxation. I'm a certified treasury professional. Although expired now, I have a school district treasurer's license. I have 30 years of business experience, much of that doing planning and analysis, budgeting and forecasting. Also, my 8 years in the General Assembly, and now all going on 4 years as a Union Township trustee. So I check all the boxes. My question for you all, or the reason I'm here this evening, is to find out what your thoughts are on the auditor's office. Is there any changes you would like to see? Is there any suspicion that there might be commercial properties that are undervalued that I need to be looking at? Or anything else you think I need to be looking at in the auditor's office or running for auditor? If you have anything now, that would be great. Or if you want to contact me afterwards, I'm easy to find, beckergop.com.
Okay, got that written down.
We good? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay, so, that's it, please. He's good, Josh. Next up is Mr. Hicks.
Is there a timer up there before? So my name is Chris Hicks, and I live at 444 Woodward Court. I'm glad to be here tonight. I handed out these newsletters that are from the Watchdog Wire about that the parking lot out here is an open drinking area 7 days a week based on a DORA, that you're theoretically based on a confusing sign that Mr. Becker was part of getting installed, allowed to bring guns into your school board meetings and into the offices, all these crazy things that they're talked about in here, but this isn't really what I want to talk about. When I walked in here, I went to every board member, I've done it more than one time with you, Mr. Patton, asking if you would do an interview about the direction of the district. Every one of you dodge every time. And then you wonder about why your financial requests on the ballot get beat by 83%. You know, there was a time when this district was completely disconnected from the community and couldn't pass things ever. It got a new high school because of collaboration with, and remodeled schools because of collaboration with the township. And I feel like that relationship is destroyed, as you see by a drinking zone, guns in the meetings, initiatives by the trustees. But you guys have gone right back there. You guys have gone right back there. Disconnected from the community. Ms. Spencer, when I asked you about doing an interview, you said, what is there to talk about? It's all public record. That's asinine. I offered him a copy of this newsletter. I'm going to hand you one right now. He wouldn't take it. And then he started spouting off trying to get people riled up. It's about the kids. No, you know what it's also about? It's about the taxpayers. It's about the community. It's not about being an arrogant, you know what. So you guys, I've asked again and again about interviews. You continue to refuse. You, Mr. Patton, at a community event, wearing a Vote for Ryan Patton t-shirt, told me that he refused to answer any questions about the school district. It's wrong. You guys need to get your heads on straight, or you're going to be stuck in another vortex like this district was for decades. You're already there. When you get beat 83%, somebody said to me, if you get beat by 83% at the ballot box, even the liberals voted against you. You got some serious issues with relation with the community. I've asked you all again and again. I'm going to keep harping on it. You have an obligation to answer questions, not to sit there like ficus streets. When Mr. Becker asked you about feedback on the auditor's office, which if you don't know that there's TIF properties that have been predatorily valued that are at the detriment of the school system in this township, you shouldn't be on the school board. He asked you about that. Not one of you said anything. Not one of you said anything. TQL is undervalued by tens of millions of dollars. That affects you. And look at Mr. Patton. He's looking at the clock. Notice that. What was he looking at? The clock.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks.
Because he doesn't care.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. You've hit
He
your time.
doesn't care. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Ryan, I know you won't do an interview, and you're disgraced as president of the board for not being willing to take any questions.
I hear you. Have a good day, sir. Thank you. So next up is moving to our consent agenda. Josh, thank you.
Good evening. In front of you is your personnel agenda for September 22nd, 2025. On this agenda today, we have the acceptance of 3 retirements and 1 resignation. We'd like to highlight those retirees. We have 2 teachers. Mary Wright, she's currently teaching 4th grade at WT Elementary. She has 33 years of service to West Clermont. We also have Raina Ford, who is currently teaching gifted at West Clermont Middle School. She has 32 years of service to West Clermont. And we have our one health clinic assistant, Cindy Robinson, currently a health clinic assistant at West Clermont High School with 28 years of service to West Clermont School District. The agenda also recommends the hiring of new personnel, including one assistant director of technology, 6 student workers. We have the transfer of a custodian between buildings for your approval. Approval is requested for 2 salary adjustments for our teaching staff. These new placements occur from our teachers continuing their education and adding master's degree and other coursework. Also presented for your approval are the proposed supplemental contracts for multiple positions for building curriculum leaders, wellness, athletic coaches, committee members, club directors, and other positions. The board is asked to consider unpaid leave for multiple staff members. The agenda proposes the hiring of substitute personnel, 1 health clinic assistant and 1 custodian. This agenda contains the approval of multiple school volunteers across the district, which are presented with their associated buildings. On the agenda, you have the work beyond the contract for multiple adjustments for cooperating teachers from universities. And this concludes the this concludes the review of the personnel agenda submission for your consideration. Thank you, Josh.
Could you pass on to the 3 retirees that we're really going to miss them? It's a big loss. I know all 3 of them.
It's hard to believe we're talking about retirement already. It's starting to fill new positions.
Thank
We'll
you.
do.
Josh, it looks like you're back up again.
Yep. So tonight we have for your approval a settlement agreement between WCEA and the West Clermont School District. This agreement resolves the payment for our College Credit Plus teachers for the college lab courses that they teach.
Item 7.03 is request for approval of the minutes. Those were for the meeting that was held on September 8th, 2025. It's a regular board meeting. Item 7.04 is a request for approval of the donations as presented. The donations are from Mindy Buchanan, donated Century Kits for interventional specialists at Merwin, Clough Pike, Holly Hill, Willowville, and Withamsville, Tabasco elementary schools. Subaru Beachmont donated $3,000 in school supplies to West Clermont Middle Schools through the adoptaclassroom.org. Arlise Heil donated silk flowers, candles, hats, frames, drink holders, and PBIS prizes to Merwin Elementary. Charles Draper donated 172nd scale model aircraft at Withamsville Tabasco Elementary for the PBIS reward in memory of Thomas Ross Draper. Withamsville Tabasco PTO donated the Basketball Jones Assembly for the students at Withamsville Tabasco Elementary School. Chads and Pod Pate donated $100 in memory of Patty Hornstra. VFW Ohio Charities donated $5,000 to the following schools. Those $5,000 each to Amelia Elementary, Holly Hill Elementary, and Withamsville Tabasco Elementary. That was item 7.04, request for approval of donations as presented. Item 7.05 is request.
Can I ask you a question? What is the Adopt a Classroom org program? Does that take place at that office store in Eastgate there?
Believe that.
Where you go and you can buy something and it's contributed to the school?
I think it's online that you can go
Okay.
contribute.
Okay, thank you.
Questions on that? Okay. Item 7.5 is request for approval and authorization for the superintendent and treasurer to negotiate and execute contracts as presented. The contract that was listed was for Maximum. They provide nursing services for the school for certain students. Item 7.06 is a motion to approve the tuition rates for fiscal year 25-26 as presented. I'll make a note on that. So annually, the Department of Education provides that calculation to us. It's in 2 components. One component represents local share. The second component represents the state share. So in-district, in-state students would reimburse that local share. If you are out of state, you would pay tuition on both the in-district, the local and the state share of that. One of the notes for this year is that the tuition rate has gone down. The calculation is really looking at the revenue sources and then dividing it by the district's ADM. Because it went down so sharply, we, questioned as to why and what was the difference in the calculation. So this is the first year that calculation included students or counted students with the Ed Choice program. And so the number that it was divided by increased, and therefore our tuition rates did go down for this school year. So that means where we collect from either students that are out of the district for certain services in the district or out of state, we're collecting less tuition funds for that. So if we have no choice in the calculation. It's calculated by the State Department of Education. We can question it, but they do provide those numbers to us. So 7.06 is a request for approval of the tuition rates for fiscal year 25 and 26. Item 7.07 is authorization for credit cards use with Huntington Bank. We currently have our credit cards with another depository institution. We're requesting a couple things with this resolution. One is Huntington became our depository last year. We were running out the credit cards just to save our costs. With the prior depository, there is a board policy that's attached to this resolution as well, which brings in a line our administrative procedures with those credit cards, making sure that it's in line with our board policy with it. There are some guidelines and guidance that's provided by the Auditor of State's office that we do use and have been using with it, and this just really kind of ties everything together. So the main authorization is to allow us to change banks on the credit cards, and then secondly, to approve with that the policy and administrative guidelines that go along with the use of those credit cards. One of the things that was noted in the Finance Committee that we had this week is those credit cards are requested in and out. So they're safe kept in the office. There has to be a procedurally request to use the card. It has to be returned when that usage is done and then logged back in. Item 7.08 is request for approval of purchase and budget statements for the 25-26 school year. Again, those are either modifications for the clubs and organizations, for the principal's accounts. The main component with that is not only approving the budget, but authorization for the use of those funds. Item 7.09 is request for approval of the financial statements, the bills paid lists, and investments, and those are for the period ending August 31st, 2025, as presented. And so the consent agenda items include item 7.01 through item 7.09.
Thank you, Mr. Romano. You've heard the recommendation. Would someone like to make a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Rudy. Is there a second?
Second.
Spencer, thank you. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Rudy.
Yes.
Mrs. Spencer.
Yes.
Mr. Patton.
Yes.
Mr. Chumley.
Yes.
4 yes. Thank you.
Good evening. I can't hear out of my left ear right now, so if I can't hear you, I don't know what's going on. I just can't hear. So hopefully I'm not too loud or I'm not too quiet, so I'll try. And I know I have a very quiet voice. It doesn't carry very well. So policy, first reading tonight. So we're going to go through this. Policy committee met before to go through these, and there's quite a few of them. I'm just going to give you a summary. I did provide the policies to you in your board update. It's also attached to this agenda as well. If you have questions, feel free to give me a call, and we can go through some of those as well. As what we've been doing for the last 16 months, since we've had a lot of changes that are coming down from Columbus through Neola and through our attorneys, I will take this first reading, and we will then have to go through legal with that as well. So if there's anything in there that you have questions about. We will put this through legal as we go through this before I bring it to you for a vote, which would be at the next board meeting. So real quick, just to go through some of the highlights of the bylaws and policies. Policy 2266 was a change in language, was a change in, had definitions were part of this. Addresses were changed. For example, the Office of Civil Rights was changed to Washington, D.C. It also had parts where we had to identify our Title IX compliance officers, kind of go with the role of those people that are within our district, which falls under our Director of Human Capital, our Student Services, as well as our Chief Learning Officer. So those will be the ones that would be in compliant with that. Policy 2430.02, participation in extracurricular activities. We didn't have changes to this because we did not select the option of letting those that are outside of our district. So what happened was they came back and revised House Bill 96 to take that option out if districts did choose that. We did not. We stuck within our own school district, so that was not a big change for us. The only change was they changed extracurricular into one word. So I don't know why they did that, but that's what they do. Maybe that's right. I've written it both ways. So whichever, but that's the only change that you'll see in that. Policy 3130, assignment and transfer. The biennium budget bill included important provisions declaring that superintendents shall assign teachers based on the best interest of students enrolled in the district. The law further provides that seniority and continuing contract status cannot be primary factors in making assignment decisions. The law also provides that the collective bargaining agreements cannot supersede this assignment. However, for districts with the bargaining agreements, the law does apply. It does not apply until the expiration of our current contract or current collective bargaining, which would then be in July of 26. So after July of 26, then this will go into effect. So we will keep the language in our collective bargaining unit through July, or through July 26, and then this will have to be addressed as part of negotiations as well. Policy 5130, withdrawal from school, just a minor adjustment there. And that removes the schools notify the register of motor vehicles if a student under 18 were to withdraw from school. It used to be, and it has been ever since I was a principal back in 2000, that if a student under the age of 18 were to withdraw from school, then we would then notify the Department of Motor Vehicles. They no longer have to do that. It's been revised. Next will be policy 5200, attendance, and I'm going to bring our expert up to talk about that because there is a lot of language there. Is he around? There he is. So Eric's going to come up and talk a little bit about 5220 and those important with those.
So this policy addresses how we intervene with students who aren't coming to school. There's been some significant change to that policy, primarily how we interact with juvenile court as well as what that intervention process looks like for our students. With regard to juvenile court, this law really puts a lot of onus on working with juvenile court around truancy in a more timely manner than had been in the past. And then for our district policy, or district procedures, we've had more ability to create a framework that works better for us as a school district versus a framework that the state had determined would be applied to all school districts. So we have a procedure now that allows for better communication with families and trying to intervene with students before it gets to that point where we do have to refer on to juvenile court. That said, unexcused absences, there is greater emphasis on working with juvenile court than had been in the previous edition. Any questions with that? Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. Policy 5223, release time for religious instruction. The budget bill further amended the release time courses for religious instruction. Now require that board policy authorize participating students to be excused from school to attend RTRI for at least one period per week. However, that policy must also limit the release time to no more than 2 periods in any 1 week for elementary to middle school students. And for high school students, release time cannot exceed 2 units. Policy has been modified in line with these changes. Policy 5410, promotion, along with the other changes of attendance and truancy. House bill removed the provision of the law which mandated retention of students who miss at least 10% of the school year. The provision states that students who fail 2 or more classes must be retained unless the principal and teachers decide to do otherwise. Truancy is no longer attached to these considerations. Policy 6109 is a new policy. It's acceptance of payment by credit card. Districts and ESCs are increasingly utilizing credit card payments as an acceptable mode of paying, so this is us receiving payment for outstanding balances and fees and services. Recently, representatives from the auditor's office have requested that school districts produce board policies which authorize acceptance of payment by credit card. This policy was modified to incorporate those requirements and expectations for accepting payment by credit card. 6152, student fees, is an option in this policy, allows for utilizing credit cards again, and is acceptable mode for paying these particular fines, fees, and charges. It's also a technical correction to 6109. Policy 6830, audit, is a revision. Current law requires the treasurer to produce an accounting of all money, bonds, and securities of the board at the expiration of their current term and before the board approves of the treasurer. Upon production of the accounts, the board or a committee of the board or alternative representative of the auditor of the state is required to count the money. The board is then required to certify that amount of records of the board. House Bill 96 strikes the option to delegate the duty to count the funds to a representative from the auditor's office. Policy 7540.02, digital content. This is revisions policy reflecting the United States Department of Justice final rule provision under Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, requiring state and local government agencies, including public schools, to make web content and mobile applications accessible to the individuals with disabilities. We already have that a part of our web page as well as our website and our electronic digital content. 7541 is the provisions of this policy have been included in 8300. This is no need for a duplicate or a policy correction. 8305 is revisionist policy reflect the provisions of cybersecurity program, which is included in House Bill 96. We feel we're in really good shape with our technology department, namely Larry Parise, who's on the cutting edge of our cybersecurity and is really renowned for what he's been doing, not only with our district, but throughout the state. Policy for 8400, school safety, revisionist policy requiring and regarding the 988 suicide and crisis lifeline, and information and references back to policy 5350, student wellness for threats and self-harm and suicide. House Bill 96 is a requirement for our emergency management plan and the protocols that we use with students. Namely, goes back to that cell phone policy where students are allowed to use their cell phone during an emergency situation or a threat, as well as gives information on how to make those contacts through the webpage and through the phone numbers. Policy 8462, in the last biennium budget, schools were tasked with providing training in child sex abuse to certain designated staff, including nurses, teachers, administrators, counselors, school psychologists, and mental health. The law further specified that training must be provided by either law enforcement or the prosecutor who has experience in handling these cases involving sex abuse or child sexual abuse. House Bill 96 modified the law to strike the requirement that training had to be provided by law enforcement or the prosecutor. It also modified the requirement that they do develop model curriculum, so therefore the school districts are now tasked with developing their own curriculum for youth suicide prevention and child sexual violence in the school. So basically it's gone from this to back to the local. Policy 8640, transportation for non-routine trips, basically just said that for non-routine trips, those would be trips that are outside the school day, namely for extracurricular. You can eat on the bus, which we were already doing because of food, snacks, things, eating on the way. For now, we have it in policy that they're allowed to do that, so they don't go hungry. Policy 9270, several important changes were made to implement House Bill 96 for participation. We already talked about that in the previous policy. Once again, we did not select that, so we are in line with House Bill 96. The other part of the policy updates that came out was in the non-discrimination revisions update Was also released largely at a client request in an attempt to streamline the complex collection of non-discrimination, anti-harassment, and related issues. Several of the policies have been consolidated in order to provide a comprehensive approach to related employment issues. The definitions will be now consistent with the related policies, namely in Title IX. The grievance process is designated to be consistent throughout the investigation, the decision-making, and the appeal stages. The adoption of Policy 1422, 3122, and 4122 allows for the deletion of and rescinding of 6 other policies, so they have been able to combine those in as well. Policy 2260 was a technical correction, as along with 2260.01 was a technical correction, and policy 1623, 3123, and 4123, section 504, another technical correction. Those are the policy revisions. Those are the new policies. Those are the policies that have been rescinded, a part of this packet from August. I will continually update these. I will continually put these through with legal and provide you with any information that you might need prior to the next board meeting before we ask you to vote.
Thank you, Randy. Next up is superintendent's comments.
All right, I want to take a moment to point out 2 very important days. There are two important things that occurred last week. So I want to start with Wednesday, which was September 17th, and that's Constitution Day. So throughout the year, every year, we talk about the Constitution in a variety of grade levels and areas, but one time a year, we really spend an extended period of time on understanding the Constitution, understanding our founding principles. I think this is an amazing thing that we do in West Clermont. It's done throughout the state. But some of the things that our high school, middle school, and elementary did at their respectable age-appropriate levels is talk about the founding principles, talk about what the Constitution is, talk about what are they seeing in today's society that connects back to that. So it takes that document and keeps it continuing to be a living document that the students understand. They see how it connects to the world they live in now and how important it is to always follow that process, follow that doctrine. Elementary did the same thing, and there were videos shown, again, age-appropriate, interactive activities, grade-level conversations. So I wanted to just take a moment to celebrate the good things that we did on Constitution Day for our district. And the second thing is, and I'm glad that Ellie Preston and her team are here, we had our Professional Development Day on Friday. And we brought all the teachers together at Willowville and Summerside. And to give you an example, Holly Hill has one 4th grade math teacher, right? And so she never really gets to plan with other 4th grade math teachers. So this day we brought the content areas and together, and they got to plan, they got to learn, they got to collaborate. Our content lead teachers and our coaches did a phenomenal job. As I walked around, they were engaged, they were learning, they were inspired by each other, and then as I spot checked teachers, and the ones that would tell me the truth, if they liked or didn't like it, and they were just absolutely in love with the fact that they felt they were learning from each other, that it was fulfilling with each other, that to have that ability to collaborate, take it back, work on that some more. And so I think the planning and execution of that, Ellie and her team deserve a gratitude and a round of applause for all the hard work that they did to get this straight. So I would just like to just say thank you to the teaching and learning team for all the hard work they did to make this work.
Thank you, Dr. Fultz.
Right.
Mr. Romano?
Okay, thank you. Under the treasurer's business, there's 2 action items tonight. The first one is item 9.01, which is the annual appropriation measure for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026. So that's the expenses for it's the spending authority for the period July 1, 2025 through the end of our fiscal year, June 30th, 26. That spending authority really was what started back in June with a temporary appropriation measure for all of our funds. The process then goes to where we file estimated revenues with the County Budget Commission. We can amend those and revise those, but that document is the document that says, the certificate of available resources is the document that says, here's the total money you have, and you can't spend any more than what's projected to have. From there, we put the annual appropriation measure together. it sounds like a lot of that is the work in our office, but what we really do is the budget is really developed by the leadership team of the district. So Mrs. Preston and all of her team put it together. Okay, the HR puts it together. You know, our salary and benefit budget is the most significant part of our total budget. And so HR works a lot with the different staff to put that all together to do that. This appropriation measure for the current fiscal period is $158,404,740. The carryover appropriation from last year, or orders that were open, not paid at the end of the year, amounted to $3,071,273. So the total appropriations for this fiscal period, which is within that certificate of estimated resources, is $161,476.14, or $14. That includes all funds, so the general fund and all the funds. So with this resolution is both the text, but it is also by fund and by different cost center within that fund, the dollar breakdowns of where that spending authority lies with that. So from time to time, this annual appropriation measure may be amended. We've come back and asked the board to make some adjustments. In this measure, you know, we do know that there were some dollars put in the general fund because there was some uncertainty about the federal funding and where that would come to us. And so I can tell you that it will be amended, you know, up the road when we move the dollars or move at least that spending authority from the general fund to the other federal programs that have been approved with us, and we go through that approval process through the Department of Education. So the first action item is request for approval of the annual appropriation measure for fiscal year 2025-26. Total amount of that annual appropriation is $161,476,014.
Thank you, Mr. Romano. You've heard the recommendation. Would someone like to make a motion? So moved. Thank you, Mr. Rudy. Is there a second? Mr. Chumley, thank you. Is there any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
Mr. Chumley?
Yes.
Mrs. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
4 yes. Thank you. Item 9.02 is request for approval of the October forecast. As you listen to Mr. Gephardt talk, he kept talking about the changes from House Bill 96 and all the things that created some policy changes and different things. Well, there's some changes on the financial end that bill also did, and one of them was, as you know, the key document historically was the 5-year forecast. It looked historically our performance financially, and then it looked at the current year, and then it projected out an additional 4 years, thus the current plus the 4 was the 5-year forecast as we went out. The General Assembly chose to change that. The new dates are August, so the forecast, and it's not the 5-year forecast anymore, but the forecast needs to be adopted in August and then an update in February, so it's in between. So one of the, I don't want to say dilemma, but one of the things with that is it was also pretty well proclaimed that in the current year, you need to put your annual appropriation in there. Well, some districts may adopt that in June, a temporary or a full, but technically they have till September 30th to adopt that annual appropriation measure. So all of us now need to have our appropriations in line by August 31st, because that's going to be an input to the new forecast model that we go forward with it. The second thing that really changed with it is it lopped off that 4th year, so it's the current year in 3 years that we look at. The model that we've always used is 5 years. That is the model that we will continue to use. What we will submit to the state, though, will be in compliance with what they are asking for, and that is just 3 years of history, the current budget year, 3 years of forecasts. So although in front of you, it is a 5-year forecast, what gets presented or what gets submitted to the Department of Education for them to look at and review primary review is, are we in or headed towards any fiscal distress? Okay. It's just going to be the current year plus 3, okay, as they go forward to do that. Okay. So and there is a presentation with this, and I'm going to go over that first. Bring that up. This way then. It's going to be behind there somewhere.
Close that one.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay. We found it. So again, House Bill 96 did do an update, or it did change the process. An additional change that it did, it redefined that we do have to submit a tax budget. This county, for a period of time, has waived the tax budget submission, but this year we will have to go through that process. So going through that process, this becomes a key document as we look forward to the 26-27 year, but that'll be part of the process. As I mentioned, we're going to submit the current year plus 3 years, so it's 4 years of projections as we go forward. This year, because it's the first year and there wasn't time to get it done by August, the General Assembly said that we could approve it and get it submitted by October 15th, so that's the process that we are following. We will have that updated and presented to the board so that we submit it by February 28th of 26 going forward. That probably will contain in it the projections that we have that we submit to the County Tax Commission, okay, the Budget Commission to do it, okay? All funds are really included in the 5-year forecast that relate to the general fund. So this is just really for the general operating fund. It doesn't include the federal funds, but would include if there is a draw to the general fund. So if some federal fund got reduced and we had to cover it by the general fund, that would be included in it to go forward. Many of you may not recall, but when the district 5-6 years ago had a debt payment that was with the high school, and it was the obligation of the permanent improvement fund, and there weren't sufficient funds in there, general fund had to transfer money to the PI fund. That was included in the forecast. We don't have that situation currently as we go forward with it. Okay, so, but we will continue to do the 5 years on that. Okay, why do we do this? It is really looking around the corner. So it is a management, a governance protocol for us to not just focus on 1 year, but what's happening up the road, okay, to determine, you know, our fiscal solvency in years 2, 3, and 4 as we go forward. I've talked with this board in the past, but the nature of funding in school districts is that there's an accumulation of funds. Over time, inflation takes over, expenses take over, different needs take over, and where you had a cash balance, it does get depleted, okay? So you go to the community and ask for additional funding depending on how much the state can give you. If that passes, it typically brings in a dollar amount that can last 3 or 4 years. As that expires out or expenses catch up and surpass that, you have to go back. So this forecast, again, gets submitted to the Department of Education. It's also reviewed by the Auditor of State's office, and they look at, you know, are you headed for fiscal distress? After nearly 5 decades in this business, it's almost like mortality, right? As every day goes on, you're moving towards some end, okay, unfortunately, but But, you know, as each day goes forward, you're really kind of moving towards some part of fiscal distress that you need to resolve, okay? And that's our, you know, it's our obligation to resolve that as we go forward. It is not a perfect science. We had a May forecast. I'm going to go review in a little bit the difference between the May forecast that was just, you know, just a few months ago and what the changes were in this forecast as we created one today to go forward with it. Okay. As I mentioned, it's not a perfect science. So the forecast in February will be different than the forecast that I'm going to give you today. That's because new information is given about what lies ahead. There may be some changes that go forward in the current budget, okay? The forecast contains two primary buckets. One with revenue, how we get our money. Primary revenue sources are local, property taxes that are collected, other local revenues from contributions, from earnings on investments, but the major component locally is property taxes. The second major source is dollars that we receive from the state. The state does a biennium budget every 2 years, which sets out a formula on how they will fund public schools in this state. And a lot of data is provided to them. They go through a formula calculation and they let us know how much we'll receive back. The expenditures, again, in this district like others, we are a people-oriented business, so salaries and benefits are a major component of it. If you compare our district to some other school districts, it may seem lower in total. Part of that reason that it may seem lower is because we outsource our transportation. That is about $8.7 million a year, okay? Most of that is in three components. A, bus drivers and staff that aides that are on the bus to support the students. B, the payment for the buses to keep them running, i.e. the cost of a bus, the cost of maintenance of the bus, and the third thing is the fuel for that bus. There's more, but those are the major components, on that source. But the major component in our budget, okay, is salary and benefits as we go forward. Concerns over the next biennium, you know the story, and we did a lot of advocacy the past year. That was because property taxes were being highly discussed. There were a lot of bills and a lot of parts of the biennium bill that impacted a dollar amount that we receive, impacted the ability for our property taxes to grow, and impacted our ability to raise new funds with that. Some of those provisions were overridden by the governor. Some of them are still being considered to override those vetoes and put them back in play. And as we know, there's other bills that are out there that could impact property taxes going forward. So as this forecast is put together, there's a lot of uncertainty as we look into the future, whether it is before December 31st or whether it is within this biennium or within the 2 years as we go forward. The governor did put together a tax reform work group to study and look at that. One of the things, and I know Mrs. Spencer did bring it up about the Ohio Economic Policy Institute document that really has a lot of data and information in it. One of the things that I would, recommend to the board, people want a copy of it, it is listed on board docs in the treasurer section there. You can download it and read it. The encouragement that I would give you is, some people may say that there's opinion in there, but as long as you at least look at the data, it is, valid data, and you could kind of draw some of your own conclusion as to what might have been happening in the last couple of decades where more pressure and more burden has been put on local communities to fund schools, specifically in this district, where our revenue used to be more of an even share between local and state. It is more a heavier share on our local property owners and less on the state with that. So the state budget, so the timeline, February, God bless you. On the timeline, February of 25, the governor submitted a budget, the House passed House Bill 96, the Senate made some modifications to that, there was a conference committee, June 30th, the bill was passed, there had some vetoes in it from the governor to go forward with it. And so there was a lot of uncertainty up until the very end of to where we were going with it. There's still more concerns, as I said, going forward. One of the things that I always like to do is the fiscal solvency within any school district, goes to the credit of its residents. Okay, in 2020, they passed an emergency levy for 10 years. That provided revenue. At that time, it was really just looked at to maintain and sustain the services that were being provided. Two things occurred after that levy passage, or even during the levy passage. We were in the midst of a pandemic, number one. In 2020, there was also a reappraisal, which provided additional funding to the district. There was also a reappraisal, which everybody knows about, in 2023 that did provide additional revenue to the district that allowed us to go past the projected 2024 time period. That was 2024 was a projection of when in 2020 they believed new millage should be put on the ballot. We've extended that at least through 26, and as this board knows, sometime in the next few months, decisions will need to be made. Do we need to put another issue on the ballot in 26 or in 27? I'll show you some numbers on that forecast. The decision is both a when do we do it, and what it does is relate to the amount of millage, okay? The forecast does go through 2030. As I said, over a period of time, the balances decline, so that's there. During that, the last 5 years that I've been here, the employees, we've had good labor negotiations. The employees between 20 and 23, took minimal increases. We were able to give, increases that were close to the CPI, to the cost of living. For 24, 25, and this current year, 25, 26. So we owe some gratitude to the employees for that. Specifically to the Board of Education, as we do a budget, as we do a forecast, there's some guiding light that we've heeded as we go forward. I'll go back and I could say something from each one of you that helped guide us, okay? From the point of Ryan, when you spoke about 3 years ago, about a little bit more when you were president, that we're committed to only spend what's necessary, and then we've lived with that as the leadership team. We've discussed that and gone forward with that. Okay, Mr. Chumley, Mr. Rudy helped us focus purpose on where we spend that money, primarily in the classroom, primarily for the kids, in making sure that our performance can increase. I mean, it was pretty significant where we came from and where we are in student performance through today. Mrs. Spencer, the utilization of assets that we have, and if we're not using assets, then let's either A, dispose of them or somehow make them revenue producing. And we've done that, and those are things that we've built into these projections. So that guidance is important. Probably the ultimate importance is you providing to the superintendent and to the staff the aspirations and the vision of where we want to go. That's our guiding light, putting things together for that. So, what I want to do first before I get into these charts, because there's really only 3 charts in here that I think are significant, is let you look at the forecast, okay? Let you look at the numbers. And I'm not going to number you to death, okay? At least I hope I'm not going to do that. Let me get to... All right. I know that's difficult for people to see, but just want to provide a little bit of analysis of what happened in this forecast, especially connecting it to where we were in May, okay? So I'm going to give you some ending numbers on the cash balance, okay? So the projected ending balance for fiscal year 29 in May, okay, was a negative 10 million, roughly 10,500,000, okay? That's improved. It's not back to zero, but it improved to a deficit of 7 million. Each of those cash balance years from this current year through 29, there was an improvement. And so the question is, well, what drove that, okay? There was a component of the revenue, 2 components of the revenue that drove it, okay? One component is there is some projected increase in new construction. The new construction would add additional property tax. There is a projection going back to a moderate increase of valuation or reappraisal. The next reappraisal is in 2026, so reappraisal is done every 3 years, and that is built in. When you look at, if you really take a study at this forecast and you look at the first line, which is general property tax, real estate, you'll see that why did we go down from fiscal year 25 to fiscal year 26? As the board knows, there was an early payment of our August settlement, so before the end of the fiscal year, June 30th of 25, there was dollar amounts that really typically are received after July 1 that were received before June 30th, okay? That was about $2.1 million total, about $1.7 million to the general fund. So our revenue looks like it went down, but those funds were really in the cash balance, okay, to do that. The second thing that happened is on this, excuse me, on the state revenue side, we did get an increase, okay? There was about $700,000 increase in total state funding. That continued on, and then there was a second increase in the 26-27 year. It's not that the formula gave us that increase. It is that increase was due because of our performance. Okay, so on top of the state funding formula, there was a provision for additional funding because of our performance. We hit, it was $1 per student times the number of stars, and then there was also a component of the momentum that we had with it. So unbeknownst to us, as our performance was improving, it quote-unquote paid off for us, okay, to do that. So stars were aligned, you know, with that happening, which is good, which is positive. We were rewarded for the things that we made happen to do it. On the expense side, you'll see a couple things happen. You'll see that our expenses grew a little bit. 2 major components there that had happened. Our salary and benefits are about the same in total, but our insurance, our health insurance did go up starting January 1. The increase is about 10.8%. We had been projecting about 8. There is some uncertainty, you know, as we go forward with health care. It is one of the components, you know, not just in our school district, but consumers everywhere that is increasing, and so we just have to be conscious of that to do that. I would tell you also that the staffing for this year, you know, it is looked at every year. When we see the need to add staff, we come back to the board. Also, when we see the need that we can reduce positions, I'm not talking about people, but positions, that we do that. So this year, because of where students landed in classrooms, we were able to reduce 3 to 5 positions within those ranks. One other thing that happened, and again, yes, the bond issue did not pass in the spring, and we know that we still have facilities that need attention. And so within that, we were with our permanent improvement fund, which is really for expenses that are over 5 years, okay, that are going to last over 5 years. To do that, we had some curriculum needs that we were purchasing out of the PI fund. What I did in the budget is shift some of that to the general fund so that we could secure a dollar amount if we have to do roofs, HVAC, boilers, windows, different things, that we start setting money aside and reserving it for those things. We need a warm, dry place for students to come to, and it's prudent on our part to know that, okay, if they're not going to be rebuilt currently, and we still need to make decisions on that we have to start setting money aside for not only keeping those buildings operational, but when more students come, to allow for space. Okay, so you'll see that there was some increase, okay, in the expenses that really, that were dollars that we were already spending, but it shifted it from the PI fund to the general fund to reserve funding for capital improvements if we need it. Not a whole lot, but I think it was the prudent thing to do as we go forward in order to do that. So the positive news about this forecast is that it's better, okay? The negative news is there is still, right, a deficit spend, and there is still negative balances projected in the future, okay, that we need to do. We will continue to work hard moving the ask to the community to as far as we can go, but again, there is a balance between when we go ask and the amount of millage, okay, to do that. So we continue, and we'll always work on the budget to go buy those things that you had told us in the past, right? Only spend what's necessary, focus on spending the dollars on the kid, utilize our assets properly to do that. So that is in there to do it. But it is a good story that you know, I don't know how to say it properly, that it's less of a deficit, less of a negative balance up the road, okay, that is there, okay, so, but we'll continually try and improve that as we go forward with it, okay, to do that. So I'm going to jump back to, if I can do this the right way. There we go. Okay, that was easier than getting there, I guess. Okay, so revenue versus expenditure. As I said, there's really two major components, revenue expenses that really dictate how much money we have left in the bank at the end of the fiscal year. Okay, this year is a year that we start to deficit spend. Okay, if this year was projected in May as a kind of a balanced budget, what we received, we spend, but because of the statement I gave you earlier, okay, where we had money received earlier than the fiscal year, that reduced revenue, still in the cash balance, okay, but the expenses kind of stayed the same, so that was there. So our cash balance is the green line up there, and yes, it is negative, you know, it's a negative situation as it goes down, okay? Again, as I said, there's a cash accumulation, inflation catches up, and we start spending more than we receive, okay, with it. The blue line in that graph is our revenue. And so either because we pass a levy locally, because of a valuation increase that provides additional funding to us, or the state provides us additional money, are the three reasons why revenue would increase. Okay, that's it. Other than that, it pretty much gets flatlined to it. Expenses predominantly follow a path of inflation. The big disruption there can be students, right? If we have less students or we have more students come to us to be educated. Okay.
You mean you don't think anybody's gonna come and give us $1 million and say, we are the greatest school? No, but you think maybe someone we know.
Right? I mean, your point there is,
I
we
know
need to
a
look
person.
for alternative revenue sources, and I mean, we still do that, okay?
Would be great.
You know?
It'd be nice.
Yeah, you know that has happened, okay? So the contract that we had with Mercy a couple years ago provided additional funding to this district, okay, that used for specific sources. Mr. Gephardt and Mr. LaFada negotiated a transportation contract where, and I forgot to mention this, but there was a contribution back to us of $600,000 from the transportation company. So, you know, and that had to do with putting the contract up for bid, right? But then negotiating things with that successful bidder. And, you know, in the beginning, that was not on the table, and those two guys got it on the table. So I mean, you bring up a good point, and we try our best to get those things. So that, I'm glad you did, because I forgot to mention that. That's in there. So we're still looking for that. Okay, that's good. So True Days cash balance. And so the big story with this is when the Department of Education and the auditor's office look at all the numbers, one of the factual things they look at is that our cash balance at the end of June, okay, how long is it going to last? You know, different organizations, whether it's the Government Finance Officers Association or whether it is another, you know, credentialing body out there, some will say 30 days cash, some will say 60. I'm a proponent of 60 days. Mainly because we have payroll that happens, you know, twice a month, and we have to make payroll. So the number of days cash balance is pretty important. You'll see that in 25, 26, okay, we start that decline, okay? We have 100 days at the end of the fiscal year 25. As we go into 26, that starts to decline, right? So when we start spending more than we were receiving, that starts eroding away cash balance. That starts reducing our True Days cash balance as we go forward. This is, though, a little bit better than what we projected in May. Okay, so less of a bad story, maybe. Okay. Here's the thing that continues to change for us. All right, is the breakdown of our revenue. And if you look where we get our money from, 66% from local sources, less than 35% from the state source. That shift continues, okay? And even though we did get a bump from the state, okay, those percentages are still the way they are with it, okay? The state considers us with that formula, okay, a wealthier district than others, okay? And we are a district that when you look at the demographics of it, okay, it's, I mean, you know, when I look at it, it's you know, middle America. It's the backbone of it. But where I think it should be more than 50-50, that formula does not provide that to us, okay, as we go forward. That is something we need to look at changing, okay, with it. So, and you know, our ability to go back to our local property owners is a lot of different things, but one of them is, can we get more money from the state to do it? On the expenses, again, as I mentioned, majority of our dollars in the general fund go to wages and benefits. It's about 74%, 75%, okay? The rest of it is materials and services. We have, and through our budget process, within the general fund, really focused on our core business. And I can still remember the discussion as a leadership team that we had, that what is our core business? Well, it really evolves in the classroom, which is providing the right educational materials, which really starts with the teacher in the classroom and then the things around it to do that. And so if you look at our budget, that's where a lot of that is spent. The trend going forward is, okay, unless you lose a lot of students, okay, and start reducing staff or reducing things, the natural trend is to follow inflation and our expenses increase. So where our revenues at some point get flatlined, expenses typically, unless there's some disruption like a loss of students or where you need to cut your budget because you don't have, you're headed towards that deficit or you're in a deficit, the natural tendency is the same programs and the same things, but things just cost more as you go forward to do it. So again, just kind of finishing up where we started, okay. We did peak on our cash balance, and because those lines, the revenue expense lines crossed going forward, whether the state wants 3 years in the future or 4 years in the future, we do need to have a correction to that, right? Okay, we can't close our doors. So we're either going to have to impact the revenue line or the expense line or both as we go forward with it. Okay. So this projection did build in, we adopted the annual appropriations. You will see that the dollar amount of the annual appropriation for the general fund is the same dollar amount that is in this projection for FY26. Okay, as we go forward. So that's in there. So I won't belabor it any longer. But the action item is I'll get it, so it's there. So again, it is the October forecast. The request for a motion to approve the resolution approving the West Clermont Local School District financial forecast, which is due for the FY26 fiscal year by October 15th, 2025, which contains the forecast, the notes to the forecast, and the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Romano. You've heard the recommendation. Would someone like to make a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Rudy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Spencer. Is there any discussion? One of the comments that I'll say is thank you for the presentation. That was helpful information to highlight all of the pieces that have gotten us to this point and how we got to this point, how we started with a levy in 2020, how we said it would take us till 2024, and here we are 2025, perhaps 2026. Your comments about the staff, I truly appreciate the staff being willing to work with us and to understand when they come to the table, talking about the money that we've gotten, the additional resources that they were able to secure from different vendors. The board as a whole, sitting up here making good policies and procedures and giving good directions of travel. So this was a lot, and I absolutely appreciated you explaining this for all to hear and to understand. So I do appreciate that. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
Mrs. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
Mr. Chumley?
Yes.
4 yes. So just some brief comments. One, appreciate the recognition of Paula Wolf with the Transparency Award. That really revolves around responding to public records requests. And one of the things I want to clarify is, although it's our job in the Treasurer's Office to make sure that it's responding, I can tell you that the depth of different individuals within the district, from student services to operations to curriculum to HR. So when people want a record, it's not just records that we maintain in our office, but it's records that are all over the district. So appreciate the recognition is not just for Paul and for the department, but really for the district and their ability to respond to it. And actually to Mr. Parise, because when we get a records request for emails and that, the pains that he goes through to help us out is pretty immense. So appreciate that recognition for everybody with it. I did pass out to the board that Ohio Economic Policy Institute paper that was done on property taxes. I gave that to the board. There's extra copies here. It's also on the website. But, the big thing for me is looking at the data. There's a lot of text around it, but if you look at the data, you can come to some of your own conclusions about it, which I think it's a great document to have. Appreciate, earlier this week, last week we had a Finance Committee meeting, and that was a full agenda, okay? So we typically keep the meetings to an hour, but there is a lot of content and data within that. So I appreciate the two board members, going through all of that. We kind of do that at lightning speed too, so thanks for doing that. The final thing is next Monday, right? 28th? 29th? 29th, sorry, I should know this, I'm going to be in trouble for that. Okay, is our annual health fair. Again, there is funding from Mercy and from Anthem that helps us put that on. I truly appreciate the fact that we've had some good excitement and a lot of help this year from the different departments, from HR. If I mention names, I'm going to forget somebody and I'll be in trouble. So just know that we're pretty excited because there are a lot of people are pulling together to make sure it's a great event for our staff. It just doesn't focus on physical health, but on all the different components that our wellness program puts forward to it. So, and if you're available on Monday, please, show up. Start at 8, 9 o'clock at the high school. Okay, so appreciate your attendance if you can make it. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Looks like we're moving on to board comments. Ms. Spencer?
I'm always the first one. Thank you. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming, and I appreciate everyone that came. And I appreciate those that may or may not approve of the way we do business. I still like hearing from everyone's opinions. But I want a special thanks goes to all the kids from Amelia Elementary and the great job that the teachers and the staff are doing there. And I want to thank the parents for coming out tonight. I know it's a school night and it's a thing. I have 2 grandchildren too that do the thing at home. They're doing the homework and they're doing the lunch packing and the whole thing. Well, I have actually 5 grandchildren. Anyway, but I do love and appreciate that the young children spoke and they were very respectful and kind to each other. I know adults that aren't even that kind and nice to each other. But this is why we do what we do. To be clear, that the things that you hear here, this is not all that we do. There's lots of back and forth questions that I tend to ask a lot of questions, and I think everyone else does too. And everyone is very generous and trying to help us understand the whole elephant that we're trying to eat with the money and all of the policies and everything that's written. But there's more that happens behind the scenes than just this meeting. But I just wanted to clarify that. But it's just a small portion of really what we do. But I want to thank everybody and kind of remind everybody that this is homecoming week. This is Spirit Week. So Friday will be the big parade and then the big homecoming football game. And then I guess Saturday will be the big dance. And I hope everybody, all the kids enjoy the Spirit Week. I know there's pajama days and funny clothes days and all the fun stuff that's going to be happening this week. But I appreciate everybody coming out.
Thank you, Ms. Spencer. Mr. Chumley?
Yeah, I want to congratulate Lauren and Paula, thank them for their hard work and dedication to the district. I love opening board meetings with recognitions like that. But even more than that, I love opening board meetings with our kids. It's awesome. It's always great bringing them in here and seeing what they're doing. I wish we could do that every time. I love celebrating us. If we spent time celebrating us, we could do it. We'd have to start at 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
It's just always great to see. Piggyback off homecoming, I look forward to seeing everyone Friday for the parade and actually some good football, hopefully. I'm tired of bad football.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chumley. Mr. Rudy?
I don't think I have anything to say.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rudy. I'm going to start back with the children that were here, just to kind of give, for those that may not have known like what this is. But approximately 2 years ago, this board invested in a program that was designed to strengthen our learning model, boost student success, and serve long-term benefits for our schools and community. We are now witnessing a positive return on that investment. We witnessed that this evening with the children as they were able to stand in public and speak. That program that is called is Leader in Me, and it is a school improvement model based on research that has integrated leadership, character, and the life skills into daily learning. It fosters a culture where every child can thrive by empowering teachers and a shared framework and enabling students to take ownership of their own development. Again, we witnessed that by some of the things that the children spoke about. This is a moving beyond a conventional student council roles. Students can take on various responsibilities such as leading reading groups, organizing community service initiatives, and guiding school tours. The objectives is to offer opportunities ranging from classroom duties and public speaking to mentoring and spearheading student-led leadership events to foster essential, durable skills like initiative, teamwork, and responsibility in every student. We are proud to share that the Leader Me principle are being intentionally integrated into daily school routine across the district using the 7 habits of highly effective people as a guided framework. This significant accomplishment is a direct result of this board's commitment to the investing and encouraging this important work. So again, I appreciate everything that the board has done to help continue to move this district in the right direction. Again, does ultimately take a village. As again, to piggyback what Mr. Romano said from our staff, being very mindful of when it comes to contract negotiations, to the things that our operational director does, to the fact of what this board does in the direction that we are taking this district. With that also being said, before I forget, our next board meeting, for those who wish to join, is October 6, 2025. It is at 7 p.m. and it will be here at the Civic Center. They've already highlighted the other dates. I don't need to reiterate that. I do not believe that we have a need to go into executive session. So at this point, would someone like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Rudy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Chumley. I assume no discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Rudy?
Yes.
Mr. Chumley?
Yes.
Mrs. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Patton?
Yes.
4 yes.